Tonight we are going to have a wonderful conversation. I've invited two of my friends, two folks that I both love and admire, and who have been such powerful song leaders in the world. They have covered so much ground and touched so many lives. And they have touched my life in so many ways for not only the work they do, but the people that they are. I'm Reggie Harris. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the co-president or one of the co-presidents of the Living Legacy Project. The Living Legacy Project is an organization that I was privileged to join about 12 years ago when I was asked to come and get some people singing on a bus that was traveling through Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee, visiting civil rights sites. We had about 35 people on that bus. And my job was simply to get them singing the songs of the civil rights movement. As most of you probably know, the civil rights movement in America was fueled by song, as have been so many other movements in America and around the world. But on that transformational trip, I not only led people in song, but the songs touched me in a very vibrantly different way. And I've been privileged to be part of the team that leads these pilgrimages. And until last March, when COVID-19 hit and we had to shut down our operations as the nation and the world shut down, we looked around and we said, our mission basically is to work for a more just and equitable world. And we do that through education about the modern civil rights movement and about movements of justice and equality around the world. We do that usually by taking people on physical pilgrimages. We go to sites of the civil rights movement. We meet the people in those communities. And as an organization, we are always looking for new ways to make those connections because that movement has such a powerful cache of lessons that we need in our present day. We don't go on tours. We don't go to these places just to see what happened or to see the sights. We go with an open heart. We go with an open mind. We go with singing voices. And we go to experience not only the folks in those communities for what they were doing then, marching across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, traveling to Montgomery, gathering in Kelly Ingram Park, the 16th Baptist Church, all of those iconic places, visiting the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis. But we go with an idea that whatever we learn, both from those places and from the people we're traveling with, we will be able to take back into our own neighborhoods, into our states, and to then continue the work for justice. As we know, the work of civil rights is not over. So, tonight we're going to be talking about those songs, and we're going to be talking about our work as song leaders. And we'll just have a conversation and be inviting you to sing as well. I am pleased tonight to have one of the defining voices in song leadership in not only the civil rights community, but also the women's music community and the peace and justice community in America. A woman who is an actor and a stage performer, an actor on TV and on screen, who has a resume that we could spend probably the next hour talking about. But it's also, some of it is listed on our website at livinglegacypilgrimage.org. So if you want to know more about Holly Near, I have a feeling a lot of you already know a lot about Holly Near. You can go read that. But tonight I'm happy to have her here because she is also a committed worker for peace and justice and has been for over 50 years. We also have Matt Watroba, who is a radio host and a singer and a performer and actor, storyteller. He does a lot of work in education and in history. He's a radio host on a variety of different programs. But one of the things Matt is so proud of is that he is a connector of people through song. He has started so many community sings around the nation. He is a leader and an educator at music camps, including the Swananoa Gathering, where he has been for years and years, teaching people how to lead song. So we have Matt here, and also just a tremendous human being. And I'm here. I'm the co-president of the Living Legacy Project, but also I'm the musical director. And I've been instrumental in bringing people into the sense of song, people of all ages, people of all backgrounds, because we know that human beings are hardwired for story and song. So I begin this night by just saying, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Well, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, so the world can't take it away. Well, part of the joy that I have tonight is to be sitting here in this room, this little Zoom room, with two friends and two colleagues that I love a lot. So, Holly and Matt, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Reggie.
And, beginning this, I thought we would start off with each of us offering a song that maybe is close to your heart, a song that maybe has been in your heart for years and years and years. Maybe a song that kind of started you realizing that song was a connection to a spirit of, human activity, human action, or a song that sort of got you started in understanding what your skills were. I guess I'll lead off with a song that, for me, my mother told me that I first sang when I was about 3 years old, and I don't remember that event. But I had to take her word for it. She seemed to be, truthful. And she told me that I sang this song in the church. I knew it as a song that we learned in Sunday school. What I didn't know was this is a song that comes from the time of slavery. And of course, my family was in slavery in Virginia. We grew up singing in my church in Philadelphia. And this was a prominent song that we sang. I didn't realize, as I said, that the historical connection of this song was that people who found themselves in bondage here in the United States, who were raising up the spirituals, sang this song to remind them that in the devastation of slavery, that every day demeaned them and separated them from true action of liberating themselves. They sang a song that said, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, showing that even in the deepest, most devastating situation of slavery, you still have a light, and that light can still shine. And they passed the song on to their children, who also passed it on. So I'm going to sing that song today, kind of like the old folks used to sing it in my church. We always wondered why they weren't in a hurry. But now I know they were singing that song to rejuvenate and to re-inform themselves. So y'all can join me. We're just going to sit in it, and you might want to just... You might want to pack on something, or maybe clap your hands, or do some motion that connects you to your body right now. Well, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Well, way down in my heart, I'm gonna let it shine. Well, way down in my heart, I'm gonna let it shine. Way down in my heart, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Well, everywhere I go, say, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Then Pete Seeger said, the light that shines is the light of love, lights the darkness from above, shines on me me that shines on you. It shows what the power of love can do. Gonna shine my light so far and near. Shine my light bright and clear. If there's a dark corner in this land, gonna let my little light shine. Well, I'm not gonna make it shine. No, just gonna let it shine. I'm not gonna make it shine. Just gonna let it shine. Not gonna make it shine. Just gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. One more time. Say, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Somebody say amen. Matt, what song do you have on your mind tonight?
Oh, I'll say amen.
Let me unmute so I can say amen. I want to
there you
unmute.
go.
We're saying all kinds of things and clapping and dancing, but you can't hear it.
Well, Reggie, it is an absolute honor to be part of all of this. I'll tell you, I've also had the experience of leading that Singers on the Bus down for the Living Legacy Project 3 times now, and there's nothing in the world like it. It's an experience that will change you forever. And like this song changed me forever. This is a song I've been singing my whole life. This is a song that no matter what grade school I go to anywhere in the country, every kid seems to know this song. At least they know some of this song. And so let's sing the part we know. As I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. Sing it out. This land is your land, and this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. When my daughter Caitlin was about 7 or 8 years old, she came home from school one day and she said, "Dad, you like folk music, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I do, Caitlin." And she said, "Well, you know, we learned this song in class today that I think you might like." And she sang it for me. She sang, "This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me." And so after I wiped the tears from my eyes, I said, "But you know, sweetie, that song has 6 verses and you probably only learned 3 of them." And that song was actually written originally as a protest song. And I didn't know that when I sang that song for most of my life, because that song demonstrates for me why folk music is the perfect sort of outlet for this kind of protest music, because the songs are so powerful. Woody wrote that song decades and decades and decades ago, but kind of put it away. It didn't go anywhere until a school teacher in New York City put it in a music book. And from that simple act of putting that song in a music book in New York, it traveled not just across the country, but across the world without the aid of the internet, without the aid of radio, without the aid of anything. It passed from person to person to person. That song got to Russia before Pete Seeger did, right? Somehow it traveled the ocean. And Pete made sure to sing all 3 verses. So I'm going to sing the last 3 verses for you, because that was the revelation for me. And there's no better memory of these 3 verses, especially the one, than when Pete sang this with Bruce Springsteen at the inauguration of Barack Obama in 2008. I swear Pete looked right at the camera and winked at me. At least that's the way it seemed to be. And bright sunny morning, in the shadow of a steeple, By the relief office, I saw my people as they stood there hungry. I stood there whistling. Is this kind that's made for you and me? This land is your land, and this land is my land. Let me hear you. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. Pete looked into the camera at that inauguration and he sang, as I went walking, I saw a sign there, and on the sign it said, no trespassing. But on the other side, it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me. Nobody living can ever stop me as I go walking my freedom highway. Nobody living can make me turn back. This land was made for you and me. Let's hear you sing it. This land is your land, and this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. Tag it again. Oh, this land was made for you. One more time. Oh, this land was made for you and me. Woody Guthrie.
A subversion of taking it into the schools.
It's just amazing to me that everybody learned those verses and our whole lives, and just the power of how a song can travel like that, you know. And it's because there's nothing more powerful. The most powerful thing you can do for a song is sing it, you know. And that's what I've realized from doing these community sings. Not only does it bring people together, but it really saves these songs. It keeps these songs alive. And I'm always wondering, as a folk music, you know, person who loves this kind of music, what makes a song last? Well, there's really only one thing that makes a song last, and that is when people sing it.
Sing it, yeah. Holly, what song do you have on your heart?
I like that comment about the only thing that keeps a song going is when you sing it. That's great. You know, I lived on a little farm way far away from everybody when I grew up. And one of the great things my parents did was they got a record player. And they started ordering records from catalogs. And that's when the world came into our house, a world that we would never have known about otherwise. So we learned about South Africa from Miriam Makeba, and we learned about Paris from Edith Piaf, and we learned about what was going on downtown from Patsy Cline, and we learned about life. And I can remember when Odetta came into our house in a record, and she was singing a song called Waterboy. And with her big, huge, deep voice, and Waterboy, where are you hiding? And then she went, huh. And I asked my mom what this was about. And she said, well, it's about a chain gang. And they tie their legs together and they have to hit the rocks out in the sun, breaking rocks. These are prisoners who are incarcerated. And I don't think she understood at the time it was also slave gangs as well as incarcerated gangs. But she said if they don't sing, their legs not in time, they'll rip their ankles with the chain. And so they create these songs that, you know, and that keeps you going. And the huh was when the hammer hit the rock. Right. And I said to my mom in great horror, they do that to people? It had just never as a child occurred to me that anybody would chain everybody together and make them go out into the heat and break rock. So it was a song, and many songs, that taught me about a world that I didn't have any experience with.
Wow.
I don't think I would have come into the world with the same tools when I left that farm if I hadn't had the music of all the social change activists that were singers, Harry Belafonte, and singers who weren't political in the sense that they weren't folk singers. When the Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals, song from South Pacific that said, "You've got to be taught. You've got to be taught racism. Babies don't come into the world as racist. That you have to be carefully taught." So music has. I made it through a couple months at college, but music has really been my university.
Hmm.
So throughout the time, I was asked to sing a song, but the students had been killed at Kent State. And I was doing hair in New York on Broadway when the students were killed. And at that time, I was very young. I didn't know where Kent State was. I didn't know that the United States had invaded Cambodia. I didn't know what the National Guard was. So the whole process of understanding all of that became more and more clear when, quite accidentally, one of the survivors, who has lived his life as a paraplegic, asked me to write a song for the first year's memorial. And those kind of challenges, if you're involved in music and teaching, you have to learn what it is you want to pass on. And I was on the airplane, still didn't have a song, horrified that I didn't have a song, going to land soon in Ohio. And I said, "What's blocking you? What's making everything you write is so rhetorical and so boring? So what is it that happened? What's going on?" Well, there were these students, the National Guard came in, these students were protesting, they were ordered to fire on the students, some of the students died, and that could have been you. Oh, well, it could have been me, but instead it was you. And I'll keep doing the work you were doing as if I were too. I'll be a student of life, a singer of songs, a farmer of food, and the righter of wrong. It could have been me, but instead it was you. And it may be we, dear sisters and brothers, before we are through. But if you can die for freedom, 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 if you can die for freedom, I can too. And then I learned about what had happened down in Chile, a military coup, people being arrested and killed, especially the first martyr was an extraordinary singer-songwriter, director, actor named Victor Jara. The junta broke the fingers of Victor Jara's hands, said to the gentle poet, kill to the gentle poet. Oh, I just blanked out. Sing your song if you can. Victor started singing, and then they shot his body down. You can kill that man, but not his song, 'cause it sung the whole world round. It could have been me, but instead it was you. So I'll keep doing the work you were doing as if I were too. I'll be a student of life, a singer of songs, a farmer of food, and the righter of wrong. It could have been me, but instead it was you. And it may be we, dear sisters and brothers, before we are through. But if you can sing for freedom, 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 if you can sing for freedom, I can too. And now there's probably 15 verses, 5 of which I wrote, 10 of which have been written by people around the world who found themselves wanting to express themselves about an event that took place. And they write and say, "Can I add a verse to your song?" And I'm honored.
Wow. That's a powerful way to come into the recognition of song as powerful inspiration. The music coming into, I know I do a show with Greg Greenway, and he talks about the fact that his brother went away to college and left a Richie Havens record behind. And at 12 years old, he played the Klan. Not knowing what he was getting into, but that was the thing that set up the dissonance for him of what he was seeing in Richmond, cradle of the Confederacy, and that's the little nut for me. I think it was hearing those old folks sing those songs that didn't seem this joy that I have, but also then ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. And as young
That's
people
right.
saying, turn us around from what?
Yeah. You hear that Nina Simone song about Mississippi, goddamn, and there's something you have to learn.
Yeah, this.
It just comes right out and
She wrote
and
it
I
down.
heard that when I was 18 and in college. She sang at UCLA, and I went to that show, and
Yeah.
she sang that song. I'd never seen pure anger before. I came from a very white, polite type of upbringing. If you decided to get angry, you excused yourself from the table and went and dealt with it. But there she was in front of thousands of people, and her anger was so pointed. It was so clear. There wasn't any, I mean, she was fanning the flame of revolution in every note. That place was ready to go at her invitation. It was
She used to introduce that song too. She'd say, "This is from a musical that hasn't been written."
I'm sorry she never finished that musical.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm wondering where it was going to play.
Yeah, well, you never know. Somebody comes along and says, "We'll, no matter what, we'll do it." I think that's how the Cradle Will Rock got.
Yeah.
They didn't want it to play in the theater. Everybody got out, walked up to Harlem, I think it was, and
Yeah.
it was open, and none of the actors were allowed to be on stage. So Mark Blitzstein sat up there and played the piano, and the actors got up and did their parts from the theater.
Really?
Each of them singing, this will happen.
Yeah.
Artists don't back down very easily.
It can happen in ordinary ways too. My ninth grade English teacher introduced me to contemporary folk music by playing a Tom Paxton album, and I was 13. And that, literally, that record, Ain't That News, changed the whole course of my life. And that was from an English teacher, teaching satire or something,
Yeah.
Well, that was also one of the things, with the civil rights movement, of course, so much of the material was coming out of the church. Onward Christian Soldiers was the first song that they used as a song at a mass meeting, which is, I think about that now and I think, well, yeah, they were going to war, but it's kind of a militaristic kind of, that whole, a mighty fortress is our God attitude. But as some of the songs translated, I mean, obviously Wade in the Water and I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom, which also, some of those songs bled over into the labor movement. But as writers, you mentioned, Holly, just sitting on a plane and having to think about focusing yourself. The same thing was happening with people like Lynn Chandler and people
Love
like
Lynn Chandler.
Matt Jones. The first time I heard "In the Mississippi River," in the Mississippi River, well, you can count them one by one. It could be your son. Count them two by two. It could be me or you. I'm like, oh my God. Writers started to come into the movement and focus the attention on those. You're going to Kent State. They were going to Orangeburg or some of the other places.
Yeah,
On
and
that
Jackson
Paxton-
State happened
on that-
after that too.
Yeah.
On that Paxton record, there was a song called Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney. I had no idea what those three names meant or who they were, but I did about 2 weeks later,
Yeah.
Yep.
So songs were huge in revealing so much of what the news was not carrying. And,
And hasn't that been the role of the troubadour since recorded history? I mean, it seems to me like when the troubadours were coming through, say, at least in my culture, the Northern European place where the kings ruled, and somebody go out and say, the king wants to hear you. And it was the job of the troubadours, as I understand it, to tell the political news of what was going on in the land, push the boundary as close as they could to needle the king and make it interesting to the court without getting killed.
Right.
I mean, I think that was kind of their job, right? And that's still our job, is how you just push not only to not get killed, but to have people shut down. I mean, what is that way of presenting a song that's about hard stuff that lets people stay open to receive it rather than going, that's more than I can handle?
That's such an important point, Holly, because a lot of people, a poorly written protest song, if you will, can
There's
just
nothing worse, is there?
if it shuts the door, then there's no mission accomplished. The door is closed, you know.
And some people, I think a political song is going to be a song with 4,000 verses about fuel rods, and they will never get to hear the good stuff if they keep thinking that's what folk music is. But unfortunately, they heard one person sing that song.
You know, like you take a song like, you know, Eyes on the Prize, which of course came from the spiritual Hand on the Plow. You know, that song doesn't really mention freedom until the end. So that prize could be anything for any person singing that song. And I think that's why that song has lasted as long as it has. When you're keeping your eye on a prize, it could be to be the first person in your family to go to college. It could be so many things. Of course, in the civil rights movement, it was about freedom. But the powerful songs are the ones that are just open enough to sort of allow everyone in.
Well, I think that's what also allowed it.
Excuse me?
I was saying, I think that's what, you know, the universality of those songs allowed people to not focus, you know, because so much of what we do in this nation is focus into our interest groups. You know, those songs came out of a collective experience where people were speaking about something that all human beings could feel. And, you know, I think, you know, during this pandemic, that's really where I went first. You know, when I got home and I started looking at what was happening, and I started to question what am I going to be able to do in this time? I've, over the last, you know, well, actually 12 or so years, and I think partially because of these pilgrimages that I've been leading people on, learning to trust the songs to do the work and not pontificate myself.
Amen.
And I bet that all three of us are really good at pontificating.
Oh, yeah, we are.
If you want that, I can give you that too. But no, I think you're right, Reggie.
I was just on a college campus for a week, and I go in these classrooms, and these young people, I'm talking about, you know, civil rights and human rights, and I said, you know, I'm going to talk for 20 minutes, and then I'd really like to have a conversation, but I'm more than capable of filling this time up. So I can talk for the entire hour. Save me from myself.
You know, the other thing, Reggie, we were talking about in the civil rights movement is there was a unified vision and goal of freedom, but there was not a unified way about getting it.
Good point.
And within any 15, 20, 500, 5,000 people, there was not always agreement of what the process was going to be. And would it be nonviolent, or would it be armed struggle, or would it be going to jail, or would it be sitting at the lunch counters, and how to resolve all that when people come to their consciousness through such different doors. But again, the music, when there's a disturbance within a group, and I watch this in feminist groups, lesbian groups, Black groups, deaf groups, children getting, you know, whoever's organizing themselves, there's going to be this thing going on. And if there's not, they're probably not going deep enough in. And Dr. Bernice Johnson Regan, she used to say things, if you're doing coalition work and it's easy, you're not doing coalition work. It's hard. It's really hard. But so often the songs, you know, can say, all right, we may be yelling at each other or having a really, but let's sing. And everything, you know, can kind of come together.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on a walking, keep on a talking, marching up the freedom land. Ain't gonna let sexism turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let racism racism. Turn me round, I'm gonna keep on a walking, keep on a talking, marching up the freedom land. Ain't gonna let my silence turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let my silence turn me round. Ain't gonna keep on a walking, keep on a talking, marching up the freedom land. I'm gonna keep on a walking, keep on a talking, marching up the freedom land. I did that song this week with some second and third graders in Massachusetts, and I will guarantee, actually, it was a beautiful moment. I did that song. I told them about the Birmingham Children's Crusade. I told them that children, were organized and left school to go, some of them walking over 17 miles to get to downtown Birmingham, and that when they got there, I showed them the videos of it was a touchy moment because the teachers I know were cringing as I showed all these white kids in suburban Boston, these children being fire hosed and dogs attacking them. And I had to explain that the dogs, dogs weren't attacking because they hated people, that they were trained to do this. That was a very big moment. But I also told them that these children were brave enough to go there because their parents had to stop protesting because of the huge debt, the powers that be taking people's homes away and firing them from the jobs and all of that. I knew it was a lot to share with them, but that's what's happening now. And it was great. The one little girl just said to me, "How in heaven's name could they have the idea that would be something good to do?" And I thought, God bless you, child. But this was something, and it was a hard call because I knew that in that particular school, these were things they are taking on these issues, but to introduce them to those issues as they were then, and then say, so what do we see happening now, gets people real uncomfortable. And the song made it easier to get there. As I said, when those kids who were your age and older went there, they were singing that song. And they were singing, ain't scared of your jail, 'cause I want my freedom. I want my freedom. I want my freedom. Ain't scared of your dogs, 'cause I want my freedom. I want my freedom now. And they said, were they singing those songs? I had to search and find some video that showed the children singing those songs. 'Cause to them, they don't understand that connection to song in this day and age. And that's one of the things that I think, as song leaders of all ages, of all people, is still really necessary to connect them to.
Absolutely. And thank you for having the courage to do that with second and third graders. It's like we often find ourselves trying to always try to play it down for those kids. I sing in a lot of schools too, as you know, Reggie, and I have never had a problem. I've never thought I had to play down to these kids. Anything I would challenge them with, man, they would rise. They'd rise right to the challenge.
Well,
and they're hearing this stuff on television, right?
Yes,
they're hearing the worst of it from it. So it's actually, I think, healing and helpful for them to have someone explain all of those images from a progressive and caring and loving point of view, because they know George Floyd died with somebody's knee on his neck, so if they don't have parents or grandparents or school teachers who are helping them understand that, it's just going on around and round in there. So thanks, Reggie, and Matt too, for working in the school system.
Matt, is there another song that kind of rises to your heart right now?
Yeah, one of the things, this idea that issue-oriented songs can very often fade out very quickly. Not to say that they don't have their place. What Paxton would call short shelf life songs about particular issues that, the news changes so fast now, it's really hard. So I always appreciate a song that is sort of open-ended, and I really appreciate a song that comes from such a young singer. This is a woman by the name of Sarah Lynch Thomason from Asheville, North Carolina. She's just a beautiful singer, beautiful soul. And she wrote this song that I've been singing everywhere. I hope it just catches on, especially because of the hopefulness in the second half. She sings, there are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more fires burning, they will find their way to me. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. There are more mountains falling, they will find their way to me. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. I will wade through the water, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the water, this I know. I will wade through the water when they find their way to me. I will wade through the water, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the water, this I know. I will walk through the fire, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fire, this I know. I will walk through the fire when they find their way to me. I will walk through the fire, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fire, this I know. I will rebuild the mountain, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountain, this I know. I will rebuild the mountain when they find their way to me. I will rebuild the mountain, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountain, this I know.
Mm,
Hmm.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, that
beautiful.
is. That's awesome. What a song.
Mm.
Holly, what do you have?
Oh, there's so many songs.
I know. I know.
It's like when people ask me which song I've written that I like best, and I said, you wouldn't, you're not gonna hear an answer from me. That's like asking which child they like best in their family.
You know, when I do these question and answers now with schools, and one of the questions that always comes up is, "What's your favorite song?"
Yeah,
But it's impossible to, because songs fit moments,
yeah.
and yeah.
Well,
I
I
always tell
think
them
it's
the one I
someone
sing next. That's my answer.
the one I see next. Good answer. I also think that the question really is in our kind of work. Sometimes it's what's your most useful song.
Ooh.
I have workhorse songs that we just can pull them out, and they're just there every single time. They're just. And I'm always happy when I finally write another one of those. There was also tough stuff. I don't sing this song much in concert, but I think I'll just sing a verse or two of it here. It was a song trying to acknowledge how tough being an ally is. Whether it's a man in support of women through the journey of feminism, whether it's heterosexuals in support of the GLBTQ community, whether it's adults who are allying for children, whether it's whites allying for black, whether it's black allying for Asian. There's a lot of different ways in which we rise up to be allies, but it's not easy. It's not just saying, oh, I'm not racist. You know, it's more work than that. And I know in high school, I said to a friend, and of course I was very young, I was 13, 14, said, well, I'm not a racist, I'm from the North. Well, that was a beginning that I was talking about racism, but it certainly was not the end of the conversation. So this song I wrote for myself in a lot of ways. Young folks getting shot in the back. Dangerous being brown and black. You may have thought it was history, but we're not over slavery. The prisons are the new lynching tree. But here comes the hard part. Taking in the hard part. Learning about the hard part of change. We live together, still we live apart. This great divide is a rip in my heart. There's no such thing as colorblind when race has all our lives defined. It takes more work than simply believing. I'm staying with this and I'm not leaving. Are we afraid to do the hard part? Do we keep failing at the hard part? Are we shaking at the hard part? But we keep showing up. 3 women murdered every day, and that's just in the USA. Killed by lovers, by so-called friends. My body breaks and my spirit bends. We hold our sons and daughters with arms unfurled. We teach them to be strong and loving in a violent world. Well, here comes the hard part. Trusting is a hard part. Will we make it through the hard part? The hard part of change. Standing for the hard part because of the hard part. It's a lifetime of the hard part of change. I will love you through the hard part, calling on the hard part. Because of you, the hard part, I'll keep showing up.
Oh my.
Another amen there.
Oh yeah. Amen. Hallelujah. Oh wow.
I'll keep showing up. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. I mean, there's this, we kind of laugh in our circles where we go, okay, fall down, get back up. Fall down, get back up. Fall down, get back up. You know, it's like, you're going to fall down.
Yeah.
You're going to fall down. If you're working in an ally relationship, I probably won't fall down if I'm writing something within the feminist or lesbian community. But if I start working in the Black community, the Latin community, the Native American community, the deaf community, I'm going to fall down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to go in knowing that's going to happen. And you have to go in knowing that somebody's going to look at you and say, that was a racist thing to say. And from my point of view, I have to be able to say, tell me more, because there's no one in the world who wants to be less racist than me. So if you think I just exhibited something, I'm not insulted by you bringing this up. I am blessed that you bothered to trust me enough to bring it up. Right? And that's the way you do the hard part.
Yeah, that's the opportunity. That's the moment.
That's the teaching opportunity.
And it's hard, it's hard. Well, there's so much, with the pandemic as we are still living through it, and the vulnerability of people and realizing, I think, in this window with all of the Confederate monuments, the statues, the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, the intersectionality of Asian, anti-Asian violence, and people are weary already. They are coming alive, as it were, to recognize that their awareness is has been muted or completely made invisible. But they're now saying, "How do we do the hard part?" And I find that in this moment, part of the job of song leading with people is to give them, not to ease them in, but to give them a sense of what that feels like, of that, because 2 weeks in they're like, okay, I'm done with this. Can we move to, can we win this, can we get to a better place? And I say, no, no, it's gonna be hard. But I mean, I think of Pat Humphrey's song, keep on moving forward, keep on moving forward. There's no guarantee. The folks on the civil rights, Cordell Reagan and Bernice and Chuck Nebel and all of those, they said, we sang because in those moments we needed to nourish our hearts. We needed to rejuvenate ourselves. Because, as Flonzie Brown Wright said on one of our broadcasts last year, I want to quit this job every night.
Right. I mean, in some way, who would want this job, except in the process of doing this work, you meet the best people in the world. Right? I mean, who wants to go hang out with fascists and racists and sexists and white people? Right? I mean, that's not the community I want to hang with. So the only way to get in touch with the greatness of these people is to get in and do the work and become part of the potluck. And it makes for a great life. And it's not easy. It is hard work. But I have to say, this tired part, I think where sometimes we get really tired is because nobody explained to us that there isn't an end to it. This idea of we're going to have a victory, we're going to get the vote, we're going to do whatever. Of course we are, but there's no end to evolution.
No. Until
the world's over. We're spinning through space at an unimaginable rate of speed. But until that stops, until gravity says, I'm tired, then then you wake up every day and
get back to work.
Can't be everywhere at the same place. This one woman was really frustrated that she was working in a women's shelter, I think, and she was very frustrated she couldn't do anti-apartheid work during the whole apartheid solidarity work with South Africa. And I said, well, we can't be everywhere, but maybe you can bring everywhere to you. Maybe your anti-apartheid work is to make sure there's no racism in this shelter. So I think if we bring it down to a manageable place and don't think it's going to be over in 2 weeks, we can pace ourselves.
Katie Curtis had a great line like that. She said, if you can't change the world within your reach.
That's nice. Yeah. Now, that said, a woman who is in the middle of having been trafficked probably doesn't have the space or the room or the privilege that we have as being outside of a locked in environment to think in the way that I just spoke. I mean, I always want to sort of put it up against talking like this is a really privileged way to talk. I feel very lucky that I'm not ignorant and that I'm not going around following Trump people. I'm very grateful that I ended up, there's a spectrum of human beings. There's the most spectacular and the most horrific. And every day I wake up and say, where do I want to stand on that? And some days I don't want to stand at all. But at least I know enough to know there's a place to stand, and I'm grateful to that. But I have never been as tired as a single mom who's trying to survive in a sexist, racist, classist, exhausting society that doesn't give a damn about her. I've never been that tired.
And that's why we need songs that address for where people are.
Yep.
And we need songs that, don't call people to work beyond their means. And as songwriters or song gatherers, there is that, as I sat on my couch last March and last April, and I was searching for a song to sing, and one came to me, and I'll just sing the chorus. I just thought about all of these all of the people who now were in the various spots, and that includes, the Trump people who, and the racist and the haters. As William Barber says, you always have to hold space in your heart for those whose views you oppose, or you eventually become what you hate. And so I thought about just a message that I could send out, and maybe if you two could think of a chorus, we're close to time, a chorus that you could leave us with tonight. Mine came up as "We will not rest until the storm is over. We will not lay this burden down. We will keep each other strong. We will love and carry on till we stand all together on solid ground. We will not rest till the storm is over. We will not lay this burden down. Well, we will keep each other strong. We will love and carry on till we stand all together on solid ground."
Mm,
Beautiful,
nice.
Reggie. I guess mine would be, and I'll give you a verse and a bridge here so it'll make sense. A song that I wrote a couple years ago when I realized that half of my Facebook friends unfriended the other half of my Facebook friends. Could you love me if I don't think like you? Is it deeper? Is it stronger? Something hidden, something true. If I stare a little longer, will I see myself in you? Could you love me if I don't think like you? This moment is a miracle, so why not find a way to be here and be grateful that we share another day? And it goes on.
That's lovely. That's so lovely. I love the part about half your Facebook friends.
It's so true for so many people, isn't it? It's
Yeah, well,
mind-blowing.
husbands and wives, brothers and
I
sisters.
can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, I have an artist representative group that I said, "Will you just take that over for me?" 'Cause I'm done, I think.
It's good to recognize when you're done. Where's the energy going?
Well, this has been great, Reggie.
This has been wonderful.
Are we wrapping up or are we going on?
We're going to wrap up, and then, of course, we have 30 minutes. We're going to go to our other Zoom room, and
Okay.
we'll invite people to come in there, and maybe they'll ask some questions. And
Well, for everybody who came, it's just really, I'm so glad that there was quite a large number of folks,
Yeah, there was. Yeah,
several hundred. Yeah,
very well represented tonight. So thank
That's
you all
great.
for joining us. You will see that the chat room for Zoom is located in the chat. The link for the chat room is located in our chat here. So just once we end this, cruise on over there. And again,
You
brought
want
to
me
you
to sing
by.
a chorus? Is that what I'm supposed to do?
Oh, well, that is what you're supposed to do. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I was getting back to it.
I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change.
Ah, a song gets it done. I would like to thank deeply my guest tonight, Matt Watroba, Holly Neer. And for all of you, I say, remember that in your hardest moments, in your hardest days, get music going. I think so often we forget and we get mired with all of these words that are floating around and all of these conflicting messages. But I know the fastest way to change my mood or to get me elevated is to play a song. So we celebrate the songs of the movements. We celebrate the songs that speak to our hearts, that call us into action. And I thank you so much for spending this time with us tonight. It's been an absolute and total delight. Thank you. And if we don't see you in the chat room, we'll see you down the road.